First and foremost, it is an absolute pleasure to see you all here today. This was certainly long overdue. I think everybody was blown away by the absolute amazing participation from our community, from folks from around Canada. Please give yourself a big round of applause. Happy GDA 2024. I'm going to warn everybody, I am not a public speaker. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jordan Robb. I'm the Human Resources Business Partner at Ubisoft Halifax, but also super fortunate to call myself the current president of the ISNS, the Interactive Society of Nova Scotia. And thank you so much. So for any of you who might not know about the ISNS, I'll keep it short and sweet. We're a not-for-profit group that really aims to foster the further development and support of the video game industry here in Nova Scotia. And opportunities like GDA are just phenomenal to showcase just how much amazing local talent and education supports we have here in Atlantic Canada. And a big reason of that is because of you all. So I am absolutely thrilled. I'm going to go through a ton of thank yous, and I promised, given that it's May 4th, I would really limit the amount of Star Wars puns. So bear with me here. Given the fact that I'm not a public speaker, I just hope my speech is lukewarm. Not to do too much of a history lesson, but GameDev Atlantic is something that's been long in the making. Historically, it was a wildly popular grassroots conference to celebrate the game development industry here in Nova Scotia. And really, it's been quite some time since we have had the opportunity to meet in order to celebrate some of our accomplishments for quite some time. In fact, I think the last time we were able to be here in person together was 2019. So the before times, before everything shut down. And then even while it was hosted digitally, it's been a few years. So this was long overdue. Jumping over to the overall organization of this conference, as you can imagine, the ISNS is a not-for-profit group. A lot of the organizers that we've worked with in order to make this possible today did so from their free time. There's so many thank yous, and inevitably I will not be able to touch on everyone. But most importantly, I do want to give a shout out to the phenomenal panelists, speakers, that made our participation rate the level that it is. We are just so fortunate to have such phenomenal wells of knowledge that we're going to be hearing from today. So if you can, please give a big round of applause to everybody. We have an absolute jam-packed schedule, and so I'm going to do my best not to ramble at you all. Beyond just our speakers, there were a lot of supports that we were very fortunate to receive in order to get this conference off the ground and getting that momentum back after all those years. Specifically, I want to thank some industry partners that have been really near and dear to the game dev industry in Atlantic Canada. Specifically, Halcon, they've been, they were really core to the initial conception of GDA. Video Games PEI, Interactive New Brunswick, Game Summit, XP Game Summit, and Shift Key Labs, which is ultimately why we're here today. Please give a big round of applause for them. And finally, we were really fortunate to receive a lot of financial support in order to be able to provide a conference that we felt did the game dev industry in Atlantic Canada justice. So our silver partners were Reframe Games, Red Meat Games, and Iron Fox Games. Thank you so much. Our gold partners, notably with Invest Nova Scotia, Game Mode 1, and Ubisoft Halifax. And finally, our platinum sponsor, Maritime Digital Art and Design. Today, I see you lurking over there. this was something long in the making, and I guess finally I really want to give a big shout out to the organizers of GDA, a lot of which came from the ISNS Board of Directors, but that was not exhaustive. We really benefited very heavily from, in particular, Emily Fenton and the Shift Key Labs volunteers who are giving us their space and their time. Thank you so much. Ryan Sno-Wood, who has been an invaluable wealth of knowledge as we've tried to navigate speakers and communications. Ryan has a lot of experience with conferences, with communications. So thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Emily. And finally, we're very fortunate to have the ongoing and continued support from our schools and education resources that we have in Nova Scotia and broader Atlantic Canada. You know, ultimately, you're crafting the next generation of game developer locally here in Atlantic Canada, and I think the future is certainly very bright. So, in an attempt to keep it concise, that's all I have to say for now. We do have some MCs I would like to introduce. First and foremost, Dr. Jenny Richardson, who is currently an associate producer at Ubisoft Halifax. Although she has 5 years in the industry, coming originally from London, Ontario, and has a PhD in applied educational psychology from Western. So big round of applause for Jenny. And last but not least, who I will hand the floor over to, Ryan Sno-Wood, who again comes from XP Games Summit, and as well as his own consultancy work that he's providing a lot of studios with marketing and business and communication support. So give a big round of applause for Ryan. Thank you all for being here. Ryan, the floor is yours. Just clips on. I know. I was like, let's see how this one goes.
I thought I was going to have to boom my voice, so this worked out great. I don't know. That makes any difference? So, I'm going to move real fast because obviously we're a little behind, but that's okay. It's Nova Scotia. It's pretty much part of the course. So, our panel today, everybody comes into this industry. There's no direct line into the video game industry. We all know this. But my personal theory is that all that previous experience, all those side quests, that's how you build up and become an OP for your main quest, right? So for our panel, we have Daniel over here, and Bitten Toast Games, Yarn Cat Games, unbelievably prolific, absolutely amazing. Abby, because I almost want to call you Abigail, because we've been over this. And Abby is a 3D artist with Alpha Dog Games. I'm not sure if anybody knows this company here with the freaking Mighty Doom. Like, seriously, I still can't believe this. It's freaking amazing. And we got Matthew, and this is Xona Games, as well as NSCC, as well as, like, Ignite Atlantic Game?
Ignite Labs. Right?
Ignite Labs. See, I get mixed up because my company is Game Ignite, so it's, unfortunately I copied them. I didn't know. So, and just phenomenal work. And of course, Jeff Mundee with Spandrel and with Reframe Games. Yeah, and working in doing all kinds of really cool stuff between making. One of the focuses that Jeff does is super cool, and something if you have a chance to talk to him about, it's really neat, is talking about games as a way to help you. And it's like, because, and I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads where I'm like, yeah, that's what they do. Yeah, so, and it's amazing that, you know, Jeff is taking that to a different level and really stepping it up. And of course, Sarah is freaking amazing. Xsolla, and you're gonna, so what is the new title? We just have a brand new title for Sarah.
Correct, I'm now the Regional Director of Xsolla Games Academy Canada.
Yeah. Woo! So this is a very recent development, so I want her to announce that. All right, guys, I'm gonna let it go here, and these are the stars of the show. I'm gonna let them take it from here.
Fantastic, thank you, Ryan.
Welcome.
So, yes, I'm Sarah, so I'm with Xsolla, and I started my career with Interactive Ontario, and as a student, and as an intern working with studios. But really, I spent about a decade teaching video game design to autistic youth to help transition into schools and colleges in Ontario and create transitions and pathways to employment, and working as a neurodiversity advocate. So it brings me so much joy to be back up here talking about pathways and journeys and all the amazing things that we do to reach our goals and get into the industry and do what we love to do. So I love that. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves and start with that. So why don't we start with
Daniel from Liquidos Games and Young Cat Games, as we've been explained to. What else should I say? I'm from Brazil. I've been in Nova Scotia since 2020. Before that, I was in Vancouver. Is that a...
Yeah. Let us know, what does your name, your title, and what does your day-to-day look like?
My day-to-day? My day-to-day is usually, I have 3 different games on the go at the same time. I have ADHD, I cannot stop with just one game. So I usually try to spread them out through my week, so I'm not doing the same thing. I'm both a programmer and an artist. That makes me kind of like a technical artist. So sometimes I'm doing art tasks, sometimes I'm doing programming tasks. Each day looks very different, depending on what I'm working on.
Cool. Hi, I'm Abigail. I'm a newly cat mom. I'm a 2D and 3D artist at Alpha Dog Games, Bethesda. So my day-to-day is just, just average generalist artist. Can't really say much with NDA, but but yeah, I'm trying to specialize in the concept art. That's pretty much it.
You spend a lot of time in team meetings, or is it just by yourself on the computer?
We do our morning stand-up, and then it's just go off, do your own thing, follow your tasks, you have a sprint, stuff like that, just normal. Yeah.
Actually, how many people here are students? Okay. I was just asking because just to not know how many people have experience in the studio for the day-to-day. What does the stand-up look like? I don't know if that's a concept that I know already. So.
Yeah, so I'm Matthew Doucette. I'm with NSCC, the game development programs, and Xona Games in my own studio. What's happening with me now is I'm transitioning back to Xona Games. So my day-to-day is sort of is weird today because I'm trying to transition back into these new projects that I'm working on. At NSCC, it's interesting, I don't know if I should get into this, but we tried to, actually Abby came through one of our programs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we tried to emulate the studio environment. So as students, that's one thing with the NSCC game development programs, we try to emulate the studio environment. So when you transition, and Abby can probably talk to that.
It's very seamless.
Yeah, seamless, yeah. So that's that.
Jeff?
So Jeff Mundee, and I'm a spatial computing research developer at UNB in computer science, and I teach the games and 3D courses in the Faculty of Arts at UNB. And I run Spandrel Interactive, which is a service company. We do software development, apps, and VR and XR training stuff, HoloLens, mocap, whatever. And then the other side of that is Reframe Games, which is a game studio making games for good. And that was basically, that's the thesis of Reframe Games, is to try and make games that intentionally have some effect, some positive effect for people who play them, but that are conventionally sort of positioned for value in the general games market, and see if we can make that work. A lot of games for good, just all that gamification stuff more than anything, don't generally sell very well. And then games that sell very well aren't necessarily, not that they don't do awesome things, but the intention is sometimes there. It's certainly more now than when we started way back in 2016, but that's kind of the reason for that kind of work. And then, because Spandrel is a service company, sometimes I take on other roles in other companies. So the other big one right now is Archaeosoft, which is making archaeology software.
Cool.
So are you on the computer a lot doing more administration than anything else? Organization, project management, running the show?
Yeah,
That's your
it's
day-to-day?
a lot of orchestration, and none of it would be possible without awesome people in all those places, right? So it's a lot of high-level direction day to day. So like I'll get up, it's emails, and all to the Discords and Slacks and Teams and all that stuff, and then get to the lab, and there's whatever's going on at the lab or whatever's going on in production and various projects. There's usually, I don't know, 15, 20 projects. And then class prep is easy. Marketing is easy. I've been teaching post-secondary for like 15 years.
Marketing is not easy, don't say that.
You can make it easy. I was also an LMS admin for a long time. I worked with the Center for Enhanced Teaching and Learning for a while. So I've got some pedagogical tricks that I leverage to lighten the load on all fronts. But yeah, anyway, that's
Completion marks.
yeah, or peer training is good.
Yeah.
Or how about automated quizzes on the LMS is a good time too. Yeah, all kinds of good tricks.
Okay, awesome. So it sounds like you're all very, very busy people in your day-to-days. And it sounds like you're also meeting your goals, which is part of what I want to get to the root today. Now that we know what you do, how did you get there? How did you get there? Where did you start? What were your first steps in your journey? Maybe we'll just go back to there.
I came to Canada in 2011. That's kind of the start. I came here to study 3D animation and visual effects. It was in the Vancouver Film School back in 2011. And when I came to Canada, I wasn't even thinking of games. I was thinking of TV and cinema, essentially. I graduated with a specialization in animation. And then I couldn't find a job in TV and movies. And I was playing a whole lot of Dungeon Defenders at the time, which is a tower defense game. But it came with modding tools that let me modify the game, and I now had like some 3D knowledge. And I started like making levels for the game, taking the game characters and like posing them and posting on the forums for the game. And one day I got a call from the president of the company, which was French Entertainment at the time, asking if I was looking for a job. I was like, yes, I'm totally looking for a job. And he offered me a freelance to animate the trailer for Dungeon Defenders 2, which I did. It was a MOBA back then. Now Dungeon Defenders 2 is actually not a MOBA anymore. Everyone was making MOBAs at the time. But that got me started into the journey of like, wait a second, I could actually work with games. Because I always loved games, but I didn't even think that I could work with them. It's just like, I don't know how games are made. They just come down from the skies and exist. But then I started looking like, oh, maybe I can make my own games. Because that freelance didn't lead to more work. But now I was like, okay, I can work with games. So I bought a book of Unreal Development Kit, which taught the Unreal Development Kit language, Unreal scripting, which doesn't even exist anymore. And that's how I started learning how to program. Essentially, I started with Kismet on Unreal Development Kit, and then programming Unreal script. Eventually, I found Unity, migrated to Unity, and the rest is history. Now I'm in Godot, because something happened last year. I've been now working with games since 2016. I did a master's degree in digital media in the meantime around 2014. I worked in a couple companies, but then I kept making my games because I just love making games and I can't stop. And eventually one of them sold really well enough that I was like, oh, I can just do my own thing full time instead of working for other people. And I've been doing that since 2016.
That is awesome. And I love to be like, I'm just doing my thing, I'm doing what I'm passionate about, and somebody came up and was like, hey, are you interested in a job? Like, that is fantastic, and moral there is like, say yes, have that conversation, and then keep learning, right? Because you kept learning, you kept reading, you kept developing your skills on your own outside of the job and working towards it, and that's what I really got from that, is that those opportunities are going to keep coming to you as long as you keep on that skills development.
I always tell people if they ask me, like, even if my games are not making any money, I'm not stopping making games because I really, really enjoy it. It's my hobby before it was my work. So like, I just have to.
Abby,
Yeah, yeah. So for me, just like Dan, I thought games just pooped. So back in 2013 is when I pretty much played my first serious video game. You might have heard of it. It's The Last of Us. That's when I learned that there's actually artists that work behind video games. So after that, 2013, I was like, I think I was 11. That's when I started taking my artwork really seriously. Like, I was drawing and painting every day, come from a traditional art background. And then I've just been working off that high to be where I am today at AlphaDog.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you went into art for as a student?
Yeah.
And then was internship a part of your program at the time?
Yeah, so actually there's been multiple internships. One was with Dan in college, but my first internship that actually got me to be like, I want to be in games was my internship with Alpha Dog when I was in high school in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That was going to be my next question was
Yeah.
why and how Alpha Dog?
Yeah, no, like the team's amazing. I love working with them even when they were smaller back in 2018. And so I just knew ever since then I was like, I need to be on this team.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot happening behind the scenes.
Mhm.
So when you think about it, yeah, it's pretty cool. So what's the question?
Where did you start? Like we hear you have so much going on. You've got your hands in different things, different hats. You are clearly a rock star. Where did it start? What was your first steps into what you're doing now?
Okay, so it's so funny you guys say they fall from the sky.
I was just a kid.
Yeah. I started when I was a kid. I have a twin brother, so we played off each other a lot. So when grade 2 is when we started making games. So I knew how they were made right off the bat, and it was programming. So back then, way back, the computers back then would just beg you to program them. They wouldn't really do anything. These are like Commerce 64s and all they load up into a programming language, just sitting there waiting to be programmed. And some video games way back then too would come in a magazine with the code. So what I would do, this is going way back, but it's important, what's the spark that starts it? I would type in the code and I'd change the name of who made it to Matthew Doucette.
Start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how we started. And then over 10, and sometimes you realize there's little things you can change and tweak, and all of a sudden you just learn how it all works. I remember when I first found out how to read the screen so I could tell there's a wall so my character wouldn't go through it. My mind was blown. So I was like learning this when I was a kid. And it's, it's not about being this idea that it's smart, it's just whether you're involved with it. You're talking, you got serious when you were 11? Like that's, like, it's pretty interesting. I would say I was serious when I was like 7.
Yeah.
But it's not like, it wasn't work though, was it, to you? Like, it was kind of just,
To me, I wanted this career.
Yeah.
So like for me, it was like, I gotta start working now.
Okay, so I didn't know there was a career in doing any of it. So I was more like, I guess Daniel just...
Yeah, just having fun.
Having fun. So I didn't know there was a career. I thought when I was gonna grow up, I was gonna have to have a boring job like everybody. That's just what I saw, like everybody else.
Right, 9 to 5,
Yeah.
whatever.
I thought life was going to suck. Yeah.
Life does not suck, people. And it's interesting because when you said, oh, you put your name there, I was going to make a comment about, the fake it till you make it kind of vibe. And it's like, fake it till you make it is actually, guess what? By faking it, you're doing it. By faking you're doing it, you're learning it, and you're going to thrive because of it.
Exactly.
So I love that. Very cool.
Yeah, so I'll stop there. I can, go ahead.
Where did you start, John? What did your first step?
Too long ago to remember clearly. Certainly, like, if you want to go back that far, I think the real seed for inspiration was just disdain for games. I think I would play NES games and I would say these are horrible. I can do that. And then I had no idea how to go about doing better than that. But I started on 386 making games in BASIC. In junior high school, it was more like modding Snake and stuff like that, DOS game stuff. And then did some like 8-bit weird stuff on through high school with friends. And I made a couple games. Didn't release them or anything. And then those times there was no digital distribution really, other than trading things with friends, which was a thing. And then there was a BBS, a local BBS that I was involved with some of the stuff that was going on with the text-based dungeon stuff that they were doing, and then that became Digital World and eventually over there. And I ended up working for him too, making computers. But anyway, so basically high school, And I always knew that I wanted to do it partly because of that hubris, but also because of the hubris of my parents saying that it was a waste of time.
Yeah.
So I had a chip on my shoulder and I had to prove to everyone that it wasn't. And then as soon as I started sinking money into college and stuff like that to learn more about how to do this, then it's sunk costs, right? I really got to do it now, and it just got worse and worse.
The things are interesting because when we're talking about our first steps into the industry, and when we took them, the industry was so different at each one of these various intervals, and all of you are entering into an industry at a different stage as well. And so I think that's really important. There's also some commonalities, like parents are never going to say, yep, this is totally something you
I
can
connect
absolutely
with
do.
that too, but
Yeah.
that no one really, I mean the video, I don't know. It's the same, I connect to the chat. Yeah.
My mom banned video games.
Oh, yeah.
Shame!
It's not that long ago that people didn't, I think there's still a misunderstanding of games, of course, but.
Very much so, especially as a lucrative career. Especially as a lucrative career. And I think, working with a lot of parents and students, even till graduation day, until you're offered that job, there's still that anxiety of, is this going to happen for me? Am I going to do this? Am I going to be able to sustain my life and career in this industry? And so, people who are here, the students who are here, I always say, because you're here, that answer is much closer to being yes than anybody else, because you're here and you're learning from your peers, you're learning from the industry and from people who are doing it. So keep showing up to things like this. Because this is what happens, this is life after high school, this is your continued learning, is from hearing from all of your peers and all the people who are making it happen. So keep showing up. I'm going to skip a couple questions. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be on time because of us being late, so I'm just going to run through them. I really love this one because it is about the difficulty, the challenge. Did you see it coming? And kind of fast forwarding in your journey, you can talk about your day-to-days, you can talk about your first job, any role, as they come and as you built your careers. What was the most challenging thing? And I ask this so that people can be prepared for understanding the challenges are always going to be there. What could they possibly look like? Is there preparation for them in the general? And that sort of discussion. So what's your challenges? What was the hardest thing and how did you come through it?
I guess.
Why not? Daniel, let's go.
I'm not doing like this.
Yeah. Right, we'll go full. Okay, let's start with Jeff
Yeah,
this
let's
time.
go.
Cool.
No, I'm not ready. So how to get started? Yeah, it was really hard to get a job after college #2. So I went up to Vancouver and did the Art Institute there, which wasn't the Art Institute when I started, it was CEIS. But after that, there was lots of opportunity, but I got sort of picked by one of the profs there to come and work at Factory One Games, which doesn't exist anymore. But they were making a game about like soccer and like street soccer and all this kind of thing. And then FIFA Street was announced. I was like, okay, we're done here. So that was like the way in. And when that was going on, some of my other friends from school went on to EA. And then they were like, we need a good animator. And I didn't really like animation, but I happened to be pretty good at it. So I was like, all right, I'll take this. And on my way to doing game design, I'll do this thing. And that was sort of like my way.
And was there a specific, something hard, difficult about that, or was it like an easy decision?
No, it was super hard the whole time. You're
Development, super hard the whole time.
The best meal of the week was when we went and played Shadowrun at our friend's house and we ordered the pizza. And it was like, I'm going to get at least this one good one between the ramen and hot dogs, it was really rough after school and getting through all that stuff and during school, absolute $0, right?
Yeah.
And everybody was in that boat, we were all, chewing through that piece. But, for those who persevered and, didn't settle, a whole bunch of those people are still in the industry.
Okay, so difficulty, let me think. I guess all of it's, okay, so, so.
What kicked you the hardest, right?
It's okay, so I went to college and I was just saying this. So I say we a lot, it means my brother and I, we're pretty close. And so we landed a co-op with Epic Games, which is, I would be really proud if any of my students landed a job with Epic or like any big company. So the college blocked that because it would have ruined the reputation of the college because it was a video game. So I actually failed college. Yeah, interestingly.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was, yeah, it wasn't because I wasn't, it was because of that, the misalignment with it. I basically refused to do something the college would
I
accept.
love that, because you're involved with the college now, right?
Yeah, it's funny because that college is now an NSCC college.
There you go.
Yeah, so times have changed. But you know what? So my faculty are here, Sam and Crystal. On the inside, it looks awesome on the outside. On the inside, there's champions on the inside that are making it happen. And so you also have to advocate for it. So even in the college, it is difficult because they don't understand. We try to make them understand. We hope to even be here and help. We try to get other people coming. We're always advocating because we misfit. I call us the misfits, but we don't fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the normal programs and whatnot. So yeah, then I went to university to actually graduate from somewhere. You know what I mean? So. And then I immediately started my own company. When I graduated, though, there was no jobs. There's no video game industry, really.
Now there's a challenge,
Yeah.
no jobs.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we founded a company, a game company. It wasn't Xona Games, and HB Studios founded like right at the same time, and it didn't really go anywhere. But you know what's interesting is that we did develop a prototype that ended up being our first release at Xona Games years later.
So did you figure out okay, there's no jobs, I'm gonna start my own studio, then what? And then, you would have had to incorporate, you would have had to figure out revenues, you would have had to figure out,
All of that was difficult.
So how did you navigate that?
I don't remember.
Just did it. Just do it.
Yeah,
That's the
you just have
answer.
to do it. Honestly, yeah, you just have to do it. I didn't want to start a company, I wanted to make games.
Right.
So the company just existed. And that's kind of how I like looking at Xona Games now. It's just this vessel for my creativity to output my creativity. It's not really about being a company owner or a boss or anything like that. It's about so maybe some of you who are not really interested in companies, but you want to do your own thing, think of it from that perspective as a vessel to get your work out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. So that's kind of, yeah, but difficulty does not mean, I know we're getting into it, but
That's what we're here to do.
yeah, who cares if it's difficult?
Yeah.
Like,
It should
honestly,
be difficult.
Once you realize it's difficult, I remember this quote goes something like, once you realize life is difficult, it no longer matters. And I understand some things are too hard that can crush you, but we're not talking about that level of crushing.
Yeah.
We're talking about that it's harder than sitting on your couch, yes, but once you're interested, you can go to do it. Game development is always difficult too, but we choose to do it. Like, we want to do it. Anyway, I'll stop there.
No, I love that. That's exactly it. That's why we do what we do, and that's how you succeed in it, right?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah, it's hard, but that's why we love it.
Yeah.
We're problem solvers, and we're going to conquer that, and we're going to accomplish that. And it's part of that. So never lose that. I feel like sometimes when I'm talking to students, just because of where they are in their life and where they are in their careers, sometimes there's that constantly comparing yourself to others, constantly listening to just kind of the whole world that we're in right now, right? So it could be really hard. But I think that's brilliant. Yeah, it's going to be hard, but that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost the awesome part about it, right? Why would you want to do it if it's easy?
Right.
Truthfully. You'll be bored. If it's easy, you'll be bored. Let's be fair about that. You wouldn't want to be in the industry. That being said, if you would like to talk about a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. I would say my biggest challenge is setting myself super high expectations. I need to be here at this state. As you guys know from what I've said before, I've been really career oriented since I was really young. So having internal goals of okay, I need to be a senior in 5 years, and that's not realistic, right? So for me, how I overcame that is just getting more advice and talking to my leadership. My associate art director, she's educated me a lot about burnout and always having that mindset of the next challenge has to be even harder, then after that it has to be harder. You're allowed to do something a little easy sometimes and then build yourself back up, and then once you hit that, you're allowed to go down again. You're allowed to give yourself a break. versus constantly pushing yourself, because then you're just not gonna like what you're doing anymore.
Yeah. I especially love, reach out to people. The people who you meet here, if you don't already know them, reach out to them and talk to them, ask your advisors questions. One of my, Norma, I love you. So I've known Norma for so long, and absolutely, like, as a mentor, thank you. This is how it works, is there's people who are doing it, and absolutely ask them questions,
For sure.
I love that a lot. And so that's actually taking care of yourself is so important. Take care of yourselves, people. Thank you.
Okay. Challenges. So, as we said, game development in general is just a series of challenges, some harder than others. One of the biggest ones on the game development itself side, I would say online multiplayer, but first figuring out exactly how it works. Because programming for me, I'm completely self-taught. I've never sat in a programming class, per se. I've watched a bunch of tutorials online, I've read a bunch of articles, but that's kind of it. So figuring out online multiplayer, especially years and years ago before a lot of the easier solutions came out, was a big challenge. Big challenge nowadays, I would say marketing, because right now there's such big competition on Steam and all the platforms that standing out and getting yourself out there in front of other games is very hard. It's a big challenge. I'm still navigating it. It has changed a lot since the pandemic. The number of games on Steam just keeps rising and rising, so it's a whole different game now. One other big challenge on my trajectory was what I used to think was motivation. It's like, how do I keep motivated to actually finish this game when I don't have a boss to tell me that I have to, and I have other ideas that I would like to work with. And more recently, within the last year, I figured out that actually was a little bit of executive dysfunction coming from ADHD. And then I actually started treating the ADHD, and it got so much easier to actually, I have a task, I can sit down and focus on this task instead of, I would want to work and I could not work. I was like, I need to do this, I know I need to do this, and I just can't. I can't sit down and force myself to do it. Yeah. And then I was like, I would not let me do anything that I found was fun because I wasn't doing the thing that I was supposed to be doing. So I was like punishing myself, and I would still not do it. So that was a big challenge. But eventually I figured it out, and now I can sit down and do it.
Okay.
Can I ask, how did you figure that out?
My therapist. I've been in therapy for like 2 to 3 years, and eventually we were talking, and I don't know exactly what triggered it on her, but she's like, no, but you were a good student at school. I was like, no, I was not. I was like this late with my homework and this and that. It's like, you might have ADHD. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, we can do a test for that. So I was like, okay, and then that's how it kind of started.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I love that. How much time do we have, actually?
It's 10:46 right now.
Right? I know we started late, so I wasn't sure if you want me to cut it off to keep it back on time.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, it'd be the perfect time to ask. And
Okay, then we'll do that. We're gonna have to skip the rest of it.
Sure.
But thank you, and let's get some questions from the audience if there are any.
What's one piece of advice you would give to yourself starting in the industry, like today, like in the current industry right now?
Perfect. That was gonna be my last question anyway.
Oh, yeah.
here's another plan.
Industry plant.
Yeah.
I guess I'll take this one. If you like making games, like that's kind of was, I love making games, I can't stop myself. Just make stuff, especially outside of school. Like if you're going to school for games, don't just stick to the projects that they make you make at school. I receive a bunch of portfolios from people from schools, and like a lot of them look, it's like, oh yeah, I saw this project already. Oh yeah, I saw this. Like, yeah, everything kind of looks the same. When you are making stuff outside of school, it stands out. And you're like, oh, this is interesting. And if a lot of projects are in groups in school as well, so a lot of people, oh, I did the UI in this. When you make a project on a game jam or something, do game jams. So that's a great advice. When you do a project in a game jam, like you did most of this, like, oh, I did all of this, essentially. And it makes a difference. When I got out of my master's degree, essentially, some people say like, oh, there was no jobs. When I got out of my master's degree, I had like 28 small game jam games. My demo reel, like we did like an industry showcase at the end of the master's. where industry comes, see what we did. I had like 2 games that are playable that people could just pick it up and play that I made on my own outside of school, and I had a demo reel of 26 different games just coming out of there. I got out of there with 18 to 20 cards. I had no problem getting a job out of the Masters. Just make stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're battling that like perfectional, like I think a lot of us struggle with that perfectionism when we're just trying to do great.
That's why game jams help, because they have a deadline and you just gotta do whatever you can do within this time frame. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate everything Daniel just said. So this is where I'm still learning myself. Someone just said ship it, but Steve Jobs is known as saying real artists ship, so that's a huge thing. Actually get something done and release it and learn about the market. Learn that your game's not going to make $1 million. Just go make all your mistakes, I guess. Go figure it all out.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Go fail.
Yeah, like
Yes.
it's almost like I've heard people who get into investing will invest into something that's, I don't know, and lose all their money. Like, just go lose all your money right away.
They don't have nothing to lose.
It's
not financial
advice. Then you figure out how to do it the proper way afterwards.
Do it. Do it. Mess up, fail, learn from it, do it again. Amazing. Jeff, anything you want to add to that?
Those things. Yeah, game jams are great. Knowing where you sort of have your strengths and playing toward your strengths, I think, is a good one as well. And then covering off your gaps or weaknesses so you can be collaborative and effectively collaborative in a team, I think, is another one to maybe focus on in general terms. But yeah, certainly if you have something special to offer, highlighting that I think is a good wedge, to make progress in like securing first positions and things like that.
We're probably going to kick this off the stage, but are there any other questions?
Yeah, I'm going to focus on Abby. So similar vein of question, but we've got a bunch of experienced developers here. Abby is fairly junior and new to the industry. What is something you wish you, I guess, covered in school or you knew before you got into the industry that would help you maybe?
That's a good question.
Sorry for the spot.
No, it's for sure. I will say that I probably learned more in the first 6 months of my junior position than all of college.
Sure.
Just like there's certain tools that we missed or maybe I didn't pick up on because we're going so fast within those 2 years, especially the NSCC program now is way different than when I took it. It's more, you can choose either just programming from the start or art. Mine switched almost like second semester. So I was learning programming and art at the same time. It was a little bit much, but but yeah, so like different ways. My senior artist showed me how to UV unwrap properly, like how to make it super fast, just efficiency, pretty much. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes, Jane.
So, my question is, what advice would you have to new students looking to network?
I got this one. ISNS for sure. I've been going to those meetups since I was 15. That's how I got my in pretty much everywhere with either internships or job positions, or even just making friends. Like, I forget where he's from, but I love this person that we do game jams sometimes together before I was with Alpha Dog. But we just met at an ISNS event and we've just been chatting ever since about our favorite games. So that's an in, just everything, yeah. Just
on the meetup side, there's also the Halifax
Yes.
GameDev's Play and Tell
Yeah.
every month. And if you go on the meetup announcement for the meetup, you find a Discord there, which is also great for networking, showing what you're working on, like getting feedback. Like it's very active Discord, very welcoming. It's like it's a
For
great
sure,
place
yeah.
as well.
Good learners aside, that's sort of one of 3 main routes into the industry that I know of, and that's knowing someone,
Yes.
getting pulled in, connections, networking, all that kind of stuff, and then so people get pulled in. The other one is perseverance, so not giving in, settling, like sort of breaking through the wall or going around it or over it somehow. And then the other one is incredible skill. So some people hone their skills, make a zillion games, or like, you know, and get really, really good at something, and then it's like, okay, you can kind of take that, take it in. And those are like, there's a ton of other stories, obviously, that's just some generalities, but those are common, common ones that I know of, common methods or things to consider.
How many people here think that they're a bad networker? So you don't like it, or you're just like, nope. Okay, I had a feeling because it's kind of always that way. And so I just also wanted to say, I do a lot of networking 101s, and especially in the sense of like, oh, I'm an introvert, I don't want to talk to people. Networking doesn't have to be terrifying. Rule number 1 is listen. Like, just listen to the conversations that are happening around you. Take it in, learn from it. And then repeat. Come back. Because it's the same people. Everybody here is probably going to be here again next year. So you're going to develop your comfort around the same people and get to know each other over time. And it becomes easier to have that conversation. So you don't have to show up at the event and be like, here's what I do, here's my demo, every time. That's not how it works. It's about developing the relationship and developing the knowledge over time. It's not going to happen overnight, and you can take your time to do it. So in terms of like setting that expectation really, really high, just come, hang out, listen, learn, and come back, and you'll be fantastic.
And just by showing up as well, like you are remembered. Like I saw people that brought their hands up, at least 2 of them, I know who they are.
Yeah.
Just because there are so many times. I was like, oh yeah, I know.
For sure. Right? It's like, I know you, and then all of a sudden. So
We are all pretty friendly people.
Yeah,
like
we
all
all like the same stuff.
We're all nerds, yes, right? May the force be with you, John. Awesome. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure everybody here is also open to continuing to answer your questions afterwards, and I really appreciate letting us continue over time.